Spirit Island is a cooperative settler destruction game for 1 to 4 players. The game lasts 90 to 120 minutes and is rated for people aged 13 and up. Players embody the spirits of the island as they defend against outside invaders and interact with the island's native inhabitants, the Dahans.
Each player selects one spirit to play and places that spirit panel in front of them. If this is a first game, players should pick one of the 4 low-complexity spirits and take its power progression card. Of the 4, Lightning Swift Strike is the easiest for a first-time player, and Shadow's Flicker-like Flame is the toughest.
Players select painted wooden tokens to act as spirit presence, placing several on the map according to their spirit's unique setup instructions, and placing the rest onto the dashed circles on their spirit panel.
Setup instructions are located on the reverse side of the spirit mats. Note that each player starts on a different board tile.
Each spirit also has 4 unique power cards, which become the player's starting hand. On the invader board, players place 4 fear markers per player into the fear pool. This pool represents the invader's fear of the spirits of the island, and is the major resource earned by players throughout the game.
As they become more frightened, the game will become easier to win.
Fear cards are shuffled and placed in between the terror level dividers. Whenever players generate an amount of fear, they move that number of fear tokens to the earned section of the fear pool. Once all tokens are in the earned section, the players earn a fear card, and the fear tokens are moved back to the top of the fear pool. The invader deck is created by shuffling cards from each stage and drawing 3, 4, and 5 cards from stage 1, 2, and 3, respectively.
Stage 1 cards are placed atop stage 2, which are in turn placed atop stage 3 cards. Finally, 5 blight markers per player are placed into the blight pool.
This pool represents the amount of damage that the land can sustain before the spirits lose their foothold. If it ever runs out, the players lose the game. The major and minor power decks are shuffled and placed next to the supply of Dahan and invader tokens, which include cities, towns, and explorers.
If this is a first play, instead of shuffling the power decks, players should search through them for the cards listed on their power progression. These are color-coded with unique corner marks corresponding to the 4 low-complexity spirits.
Depending on how many people are playing, the island is set up with 1 to 4 tiles. The island is populated with Dahan, initial invaders, and blight, as indicated by the icons in each land.
Blight added during setup comes from the box, not the blight pool.
Before the game begins, reveal the top card from the invader deck.
Explorers arrive in all lands adjacent to a source of invaders. Sources of invaders include oceans and lands containing towns or cities. Explorers are always added to the board from the supply. Now that setup is complete, the game begins.
Players take their turns simultaneously, working together through each phase to combat the oncoming invaders. During the spirit phase, players choose their growth options.
These include various combinations of gaining power cards or energy, adding presence to the board, and reclaiming power cards spent on previous turns.
Adding presence to the board increases how much energy a player earns, or the number of power cards a player may play per turn. Players gaining new power cards choose between major and minor powers.
When selecting either type, the player draws 4 cards and chooses 1. The remaining 3 are discarded. In the case of a major power, that player must also forget 1 power card from their hand. If using power progression cards, gaining powers is different and simpler. You just take the next one in the list. Gaining a major power still requires forgetting.
After selecting growth options, spirits gain an amount of energy equal to the highest number revealed on their energy track, and may play a number of power cards up to the highest number revealed on their play track, so long as they can pay the appropriate energy cost. Immediately after the spirit phase, fast powers activate. Each power card has a range, a target, and a description of the effect.
Effects include, but are not limited to, dealing damage to or destroying invaders, removing, replacing, gathering, and pushing various targets, generating fear, removing blight, or defending a specific land from harm.
After fast powers is the invader phase. Any fear cards earned up to this point are resolved in the order they were earned, using the effect next to the current terror level. Next, invaders ravage, build, and explore in that order. Early on, invaders are limited in their actions as the invader cards have not yet advanced. Ravaging involves the invaders dealing damage to the Dahans and the land in the designated terrain.
Invaders deal 1 damage per explorer, 2 per town, and 3 per city. After this attack, the Dahans fight back, dealing 2 damage each.
If the invaders deal 2 or more damage in a given land, blight enters that land from the blight pool. If blight ever enters a land with spirit presence, 1 presence from each spirit in that land is removed. Building involves adding towns and cities to the indicated terrain, but only where the invaders are present. If the land has more towns than cities, a city is erected. Otherwise, the invaders build a town. Exploring involves adding explorers to the indicated terrain type, adjacent to a source of invaders. After the invaders act, the invader cards advance, sliding into the next slot, so that a new terrain is designated for invader actions next turn. Immediately after the invader phase, slow powers activate. Slow powers work the same way as fast powers. They simply resolve after the invader phase. In addition to powers from cards, spirits have innate powers on their spirit panel. Activating an innate power requires a certain number and type of elements to be present in the player's play space. Elements are typically generated by played power cards. Players may unlock more powerful versions of their innate power when more elements are in play. After slow powers resolve, time passes. Players discard all used power cards, and remaining damage is cleared from buildings. Players then begin the progression again, moving through the different phases. At the beginning of the game, the invaders are at terror level 1 and must be driven completely from the island in order for the spirits to win. However, as players earn fear cards, the terror level increases, revealing easier victory conditions. Victory occurs immediately when the current victory condition is met.
Players lose if the blight pool is emptied, a spirit is destroyed through lack of presence on the board, or if players are unable to draw an explore card from the invader deck. We hope you enjoyed this overview of Spirit Island, the cooperative settler destruction game. For more clarifications on gameplay, consult the game's rulebook. Now, restore the balance of nature and take back Spirit Island.